If you look at the natural world, every single animal on Earth comes perfectly equipped for the environment it lives in. A polar bear is wrapped in a thick, double-layered coat of hollow fur that traps body heat so effectively that they are nearly invisible to infrared cameras. An armadillo is encased in overlapping bony plates, turning its body into a walking fortress. A sheep grows a dense, heavy fleece that naturally repels water and insulates against the freezing wind. Nature provides every creature with a permanent, biologically engineered wardrobe. And then there is the human being. We are born completely, catastrophically naked. We have no scales to protect us from the brush, no thick fur to shield us from the snow, and skin so fragile that simply standing in the sun for too long causes it to burn, blister, and peel. From a purely biological standpoint, a naked human being is a fragile, fleshy anomaly that has absolutely no business surviving outside of a narrow tropical climate. Today, we cover our physical vulnerability with clothes. We treat clothing as a matter of fashion, culture, and modesty. We spend billions of dollars on brand names, synthetic fabrics, and tailored fits, convincing ourselves that what we wear is a reflection of our civilized identity. But the origin of human clothing has absolutely nothing to do with modesty, and it certainly has nothing to do with fashion. The invention of clothes was a desperate, bloody, and biologically disgusting survival hack. It was an act of extreme thievery that allowed a tropical ape to conquer the freezing world, but it came with a terrifying, microscopic cost that still lives with us today. To understand why we had to invent clothes in the first place, we have to understand why we lost our fur. Millions of years ago, our early primate ancestors were entirely covered in thick hair, just like modern chimpanzees. They lived in the shaded canopies of the African rainforest, but as the climate shifted, the forests shrank, and our ancestors were forced out onto the blistering, open savannas. Out in the sun, thick fur became a lethal trap. In order to hunt, early humans developed a terrifying strategy called persistence hunting. Because we were not as fast as the antelopes or the cheetahs, we simply chased them during the hottest part of the day. We tracked them relentlessly for hours until the animals literally collapsed and died from heat stroke. But to do this, our own bodies needed a way to release massive amounts of heat. Evolution's solution was to strip us naked. Over thousands of generations, we lost our thick fur and developed millions of highly efficient eccrine sweat glands across our entire bodies. We traded our biological coats for a built-in, water-cooled air conditioning system. It was a brilliant evolutionary trade-off. We became the undisputed apex predators of the hot African savanna. But then, humanity made a wildly ambitious, almost suicidal decision. We decided to leave Africa. As groups of ancient humans migrated north into Europe and Asia, they walked straight into the Pleistocene epoch, the Ice Age. They were stepping into a brutal, unforgiving landscape of freezing tundras, massive glaciers, and sub-zero blizzards. This is where the human story should have ended. We were naked, hairless apes designed to sweat in the extreme heat. We had absolutely no biological defense against the freezing cold. Evolution is a painfully slow process. It takes hundreds of thousands of years to grow a thick coat of fur, and these humans were freezing to death right now. Faced with imminent extinction, our ancestors realized something profound. They did not have the time to biologically evolve their own fur, so they decided to steal it from the animals that already had it. The first clothes were not woven or tailored. They were hacked off the fresh corpses of massive Ice Age megafauna. Imagine the sheer gruesome reality of this process. An ancient human kills a massive cave bear, a reindeer, or a wolf. Using a sharpened piece of flint, they slice the animal open, physically peeling the heavy bloody skin away from the muscle and fat. But raw animal skin rots very quickly. It becomes stiff, putrid, and infested with maggots. To make the skin wearable, early humans had to scrape every last piece of rotting fat off the inside of the hide. They had to chew the leather with their own teeth for hours just to soften it. They had to rub the animal's own brains into the hide, a primitive chemical tanning process, to stop it from decaying. When an ancient human put on their first set of clothes, they were literally wrapping themselves in the dead, heavy, foul-smelling skin of a murdered predator. They were wearing a corpse just to keep their blood from freezing. It was a brilliant, savage solution to a biological problem. But by putting on the stolen skins of other animals, humans accidentally triggered a biological nightmare. there. When you wear thick layers of animal hide, you are doing more than just keeping the cold air out. You're creating a brand new, highly artificial microclimate right against your own skin. Inside those heavy, unwashed furs, the environment was dark, warm, incredibly humid, and rich with human sweat and dead skin cells. We didn't just invent a jacket. We accidentally engineered a perfect, dark paradise for parasites. This brings us to the most disgusting piece of evolutionary evidence in the history of human archaeology. For decades, scientists had a massive problem. They wanted to know exactly when humans started wearing clothes. But because leather, fur, and plant fibers decompose and rot away, there are absolutely no fossils of the first clothes. The archaeological record is completely blank, so scientists stopped looking for fossils of clothes. Instead, they looked at a parasite. They looked at the louse. For millions of years, our ancestors were plagued by the head louse. The head louse is a highly specialized parasite. Its claws are biologically engineered with absolute geometric precision to grasp onto the exact width of a human hair. Because early humans only had hair on their heads, the head louse was confined to the scalp. If it fell off onto the naked skin of the human back or chest, it would die because it had nothing to grab onto. But in the early 2000s, geneticists made a terrifying discovery. There is a second distinct species of louse that feeds on humans, the body louse. The body louse does not live in hair. It lives exclusively in the seams and folds of clothing. It only crawls out onto the bare skin to drink human blood, and then it retreats back into the fabric to lay its eggs. When scientists examined the body louse under an electron microscope, they found something deeply unsettling. The claws of the body louse had physically mutated. They were no longer shaped to grab human hair. They had evolved a completely different grip, one specifically designed to grasp onto the woven fibers of clothing and animal fur. This microscopic monster is an evolutionary ghost. It is a parasite that literally could not exist before the invention of clothes. By taking the DNA of the head louse and the DNA of the body louse, geneticists were able to calculate a molecular clock. They could trace the genetic mutations backward to find the exact moment in history when the body louse split from the head louse and became a new species. The DNA revealed that the body louse evolved roughly 170,000 years ago. This is the ultimate, undeniable proof. We don't need a fossilized leather jacket to know when humans started dressing themselves. The proof is written in the mutant DNA of a blood-drinking parasite that evolved to exploit our artificial fur. 170,000 years ago, a group of ancient humans wrapped themselves in animal skins for the first time, and a few head lice migrated down from the scalp into the warm, dark folds of the stolen leather. Over thousands of years, they changed their bodies to match our new invention. We created clothes to survive the Ice Age, and in doing so, we accidentally forged a brand new species of parasite that has been feeding on our blood, hiding in the seams of our shirts for nearly 2,000 centuries. When you look at a modern runway fashion show, or when you walk into a high-end clothing store, you're looking at an illusion. We have sanitized the concept of clothing. We have dyed it, branded it, and convinced ourselves that a cotton t-shirt or a wool sweater is a marker of civilization. We use clothes to signify our wealth, our professions, and our personalities. But beneath the synthetic fabrics and the designer labels, the biological truth remains completely unchanged. You are a tropical, hairless ape. You are walking around completely exposed, utterly vulnerable to the elements of a planet that is indifferent to your survival. Every morning, when you pull a shirt over your head or put on a heavy winter coat, you are participating in a 170,000-year-old survival protocol. You are doing the exact same thing your ancestors did when they stood freezing in the Ice Age winds, holding a blood-stained flint knife. You are hiding your biological weakness in an artificial skin, and somewhere in the dark, warm folds of the world's clothing, the ghosts of the Ice Age are still waiting.